Guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have another amazing Memory Museum model to take a look at today, and this is one that I am really excited to add to my collection as we have a Psephurus Gladius. If you don't know what that is the Chinese paddlefish. And this is a fish that we believe to have existed, I believe, from sometime around the Jurassic period. I'm pretty sure, not positive on that, so don't get too angry if I'm incorrect on that statement, but I believe that's around when this fish was thought to have existed. And it was actually alive until, I think, around 2003 is when we believe the last one was seen, and it is now officially declared extinct. And again, I kind of hope that it's not. Maybe one day we'll find one, but it's been pretty, a good long time since we saw one, so the chances of there being one alive, I wouldn't say are slim. I think there's a chance, but as of right now, I believe it is declared extinct, which is very, very sad. But it's awesome to have a model, capturing this beautiful fish and bringing it to life for us to own in our collections. I do not have any models of this fish at all in my collection, so to have one, especially from Memory Museum, is extremely exciting. And you can see as far as the box art goes, we have the species name, again 1/15 scale, as well as Memory Museum down there, and it is a limited edition, so if it's something you want to get a hold of, just like with every Memory Museum release, make sure you get a hold of it sooner rather than later so you don't miss out. And you can see some incredible art here on the front of the box with a beautiful area of the water kind of splashing, as well as, again, our Chinese paddlefish right there on the front of the box. So let's go ahead, take this out of the box, and check it out. And here it is now put together. And wow, that is beautiful. Just like with the recent coelacanth, I am really impressed by what Memory Museum has been putting together lately as far as their aquatic species. Like, they have been doing a phenomenal job, and look at that. That is just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous looking sculpt, beautiful looking paint job. They have a very nice kind of a shine there, almost giving it that wet look, but not overly wet, and really, really nice looking paintwork. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at this beauty right now. So starting up here at the head area of our paddlefish, you can straight away see one of the most distinguishable aspects of this fish, and you can also see how nicely sculpted it is as far as like the fine detail and the texturing and everything goes. The Memory Museum line has done a fantastic job of bringing this fish to life in very realistic fashion. You can see how smooth that transition is from the black to the nice white here for the underside, and you can also again see the very nice shine, that kind of wet look that it has for it. It's not overly shiny, but it looks really good as far as what has been added to it. As you move along the fish, you can see again the eye placement right here. It is a different shade of black compared to what we see, slightly different shade, so it kind of stands out a little bit in comparison to the darker tones of the fish overall. And you can also, again, as I turn it here and allow the light to hit it, you can continue to see how nice the actual fine detailing for the model is. As you move here to the underside, you can see the mouth area of our paddlefish. You can also see the very nice dark wash that has been applied to certain areas to really amp up and highlight the detail. Like you can see it as we move back here into the gills of the fish, how nice that dark wash really amps up the detail. You can also see here as we lead into the fins of the paddlefish that we have some very nice detail. Again, the dark wash has been applied, but we also have a nice white coloration that transitions very naturally to a beautiful pinkish sort of a tip to the fins here of the paddlefish. And you can see that same look here once we turn the fish around. You can again see that we have, instead of white, we have the black tone with a little bit of the white there showing up, but we also again transition smoothly there to that pinkish tip for the fin. The fin itself, as far as the detailing goes, looks great, but I really love those pink tips on the fins of the model. Again, as you move along, the gills look great. Moving through the course of the figure, you can really see the very nice texturing and the very nice detailing here as we run down the side of the fish. And I also love how, even though we have a really smooth transition here between the black to the white here on the side, you can almost see like a cool speckling that appears, and it sort of speckles down the side of the fish, which is so neat. Like, it looks really, really cool here in hand. As you move down a little bit further, again, you can see the fin back here, like I was saying earlier. Like, we have that really cool smooth transition to the pinkish tones there on the edges of the fins. You can also see it there on the underside of that fin. And again, we continue to move down the course of the fish. Same deal for these fins. And the actual detailing, again, look at how nice that looks. Just as impressive, I would say, as the coelacanth we recently reviewed. And the fins continue to have that really nice dark wash, and the way they've applied it almost kind of gives it like a speckling on the fins as well, and you can really see how neat that speckling looks. As we move down here to the tail fin, again, that dark wash really highlights every ounce of detail out here on the tail fin. We also have more of those pinkish tones running along the edges of the fin, and you can see that the fish is really nicely showing off a lot of movement. Like you can see a lot of curvatures to the body showing off the way that it's swimming. And I think that as well not only makes it look really neat, but also creates kind of like a bit of a dramatic look for the model. You can see this side of the head as well, just as gorgeous as what we had just seen on the initial side, just drop dead beautiful as far as a Chinese paddlefish model goes, which is something that I honestly couldn't say that I ever thought I would have the opportunity to enter into my collection, but I'm really happy that Memory Museum chose to make one and now has given us the ability to enter one into our collection. It looks pretty much the same over here as far as what we had just seen on the initial side. Like, you're not going to see too much difference over here, any more so than what we had just seen over on the previous side. But I think what that's going to tell you is that it looks absolutely gorgeous over here, just like it did on the initial side. Again, you can get a pretty good idea of the curves and the bends in the body and just how lifelike and realistic it looks overall. Just, again, about as perfect of a representation of a Chinese paddlefish as you're ever going to find. And then as far as our base goes, bring this up, we've got the pole sticking out because I decided not to pull it out, but that's where we apply our fish. And you can see as far as the actual base itself, you can see it's a very nice kind of an earthy area down here. Very realistic tones of colors as we have like variations of greens and kind of tans and stuff throughout, as well as a beautiful dark wash tying everything together and really amping up the realism. You can also see like some logs and everything and debris here on the underside, down stuck into kind of like the muddy area on the bottom of the area that our paddlefish is inhabiting, and you can see it all looks as lifelike and realistic as it gets. I love how Memory Museum puts so much into not just the models of whatever they're creating, but the bases as well. Like, they don't just give you like a really generic sort of a really tiny base. Like, they give you a really nice, very highly detailed and beautifully painted area to display your model over, and continuing again to look super lifelike, super realistic. You can see if we look from the side, all of the logs and everything, they're sticking up. It's just incredible looking for sure, and the paintwork is just as top-notch as what we saw on the paddlefish itself. And then of course, once we turn it over and we take a look at the underside, it's upside down, but we also have like that really cool marble-like look, very high quality, again, very museum-like. And then we turn it over and you can see the Memory Museum logo right there, as well as the title of the species, and then limited edition in 1/15 scale. Absolutely amazing release yet again from Memory Museum. And then just like we did with the coelacanth, to apply the fish to the base, there's a little hole here on the underneath of the fish. You just have to slide the peg into that hole, even though it's not all that visible. Actually, we're going to go ahead and pull this out just so we can really see that we're getting this in the right spot. So there's a hole that we apply this to. Slide that into the bottom of the fish. There we go. We're in there nicely. There's also a hole on the base where you slide that back into. Now I lost it because I turned it. Okay, there it is. Once you slide that in, it sits in there very nicely. And of course, just like with the coelacanth, you can actually swivel it and turn the model so that you can display it from whatever angle you would like. That's really up to you. As far as a size goes, for a length, you were looking at about the closing in on about 10-inch range, or about 25.5 centimeters. And then for a height, highest point's probably right about here. You're looking at just shy of 5 inches, or around 12.5 centimeters, maybe a little over. And then for a width on the base, about the 8 3/4 inch range, closing in on 9 inches, or around the 22 centimeter range, maybe a little over. For a size comparison, There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon in comparison to our Chinese paddlefish from the Memory Museum line. And you can see that this is yet another example where the model's not massive, but it's not small. It's a perfect sized model, I think, to display in pretty much any area where it's not going to take up too much room, but it's not so small that it's not noticeable. Like, it's definitely a model that's going to stand out, and definitely a really good model that you could use for like a desktop somewhere, or pretty much any area that you would like to display this. It's, I would say, a perfect size. For a few more comparisons, we've got the Collectae Edaphosaurus and Dimetrodon next to the Chinese paddlefish. I don't have any other models of this species in my collection at all, so I really have nothing to compare it with, so I figured just a few random comparisons might help you out. Then we've got a Kenner juvenile Tyrannosaurus and a Mattel Dilophosaurus next to the paddlefish here, again showing off the size and the fact that it's not overly massive, but still a pretty great size. And then for one final comparison, here is the recent coelacanth we had reviewed next to the paddlefish, showing you how they size up to each other and how beautiful both of these models are. In my opinion, two of the best Memory Museum has to offer, and these are their two newest releases, which really has me, super hyped for everything they're going to release in the future, because they're obviously improving leaps and bounds continuously with every release, and I honestly don't know how it'll get any better, but I have faith in Memory Museum to show me just how much it'll get better in the future with more incredible releases. But these two right here are just as insanely awesome as it gets. So this Chinese paddlefish from Memory Museum is another gorgeous release, and yet another beautiful and unexpected release. A really cool species of fish that I did not think they were going to make. I didn't think anybody honestly would make. I mean, I had kind of hoped that somebody would eventually, but it's definitely a very welcome addition to my collection. It's such a unique looking fish, and one that, again, unfortunately, as far as I know, is believed to be extinct. So that is definitely very sad, and it's a beautiful species that did not deserve to go extinct. So it's incredibly unfortunate to think that it is, no longer with us, but having this model to remember it is definitely at least a little bit of a plus as far as Memory Museum goes, and they really did do this fish justice. I feel like they brought it to life perfectly. Whether it's the sculpt, the paint, everything looks fantastic on the model and incredibly lifelike. They've done a good job of sculpting the fish out with so much really nice, really fine detail. Probably, I would say, as impressive as the coelacanth, which I was totally blown away by. You can see, again, movement in the fins, how they're kind of like swaying through the water as the fish is swimming through the water. You can also see a beautiful turn to the body of the fish, showing some movement as it's swimming along. It's not in any kind of like a stagnant pose, not any type of a crazy dramatic action pose either, just a really nice natural pose. And all of the fine detailing through the course of the fish is incredibly lifelike. The paintwork as well is beautiful, as the tones look very nice, very appealing. They have very subtle color difference through the course of the model. Very nice transitions back and forth. Those beautiful pink tips to the fins are so appealing to the eye, and then they have a nice kind of a shine to the model overall. But I'm really kind of trying to stress how the shine's not overly shiny, but still pretty realistically shiny. Very, I would say, perfectly done on the part of Memory Museum. And then you have a really cool base with some kind of logs and everything, just showing the underside of the area that the paddlefish is currently inhabiting. And that, as well, is beautifully sculpted, beautifully painted with so many different tones of color, just giving it an incredibly lifelike and realistic look, just like the fish itself. And then you have the marble base underneath, where it kind of matches the trend of all of the previous Memory Museum releases, where they kind of look like they all belong together. Just an insanely awesome release on the part of Memory Museum, if you ask me, and one that I am so happy to enter into my collection. So a definite recommendation, if you ask me. If you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that. So make sure you check that link, head on over there, purchase yourself this fantastic Chinese paddlefish from Memory Museum, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.